Still stand by. It's YouTube slow.
Okay. Said I post to YouTube to Twitter.
It'll automatically post it.
Okay.
Okay, I've got push notification for YouTube. We are now live. So coming off the graphic in 5, 4, 3.
Hey everybody, welcome to the final live show of the year, 2018.
Yes.
Yeah.
We pre-recorded, or I guess before we record,
Yes.
episode 30. 30?
Yeah, 30. 30, yeah.
Woo, 30.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
It's been a long road. Really happy with where we've been and where we're going. So we're gonna keep that rolling, obviously. Yeah, it's crazy. We're at the end of the year here, so gosh, 29 episodes already in the box there, or in the bag, if you will. Yeah. So go ahead and send in some of your questions and whatnot. We had some pretty good games this week. Two really big ones.
Sorry.
Yeah, good.
Mixon Yamp, greeting from Sweden. Hello.
Whoa. Okay.
That's
Hi. Is it hello or hello? Or how do you say it?
Hi.
No. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Can you teach us how to say hello in Swedish? That'd be awesome. Maybe we could give that to.
Sorry, just gonna log off right
Okay.
now. We're 7-1-2 in the last 10.
Yes,
we
we are. See, and it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about and the whole purpose of this show and the way that we shoot this show.
Jay, is there anything wrong with our audio?
Definitely something wrong with our audio.
Alright, hold on. We're gonna fix this right now. Only the camera audio is on right now, not our mics. So if you talk louder, they'll be able to hear it.
What in the world? Nothing's changed here.
We blame the Wi-Fi. Comcast sucks. We've having a lot of problems lately with them. But we'll get it working right now.
What, you're getting messages too?
Edge, H-A-G. I don't know how you say it in Swedish. Will Jones need to be traded? No.
Just no, flat out no.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I think. What you doing?
Can they hear us? There's audio issues.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Laptop mics are dead.
What in the hell?
Yeah, our producer's trying to figure it out.
Everything's on max.
Turn yours down.
That's Paul.
No, that's you. I'm hearing it from your computer. Great show. This is awesome.
What does that say? Oh.
Super echo, lots of delay and echo.
People asking about trading Jones?
This whole thing's crashing.
We have to come back.
Yeah. Why don't we just tell them we'll be back?
Well, you guys aren't saying anything is the problem. So I have levels, but no one's talking.
Alright, well, we'll just keep talking. Well, we heard there was a bunch of echoing. Yeah, Jones is clutch in the playoffs. I agree. We've been talking about that all season long. That Jones he's not a superstar goalie. He's a good goalie, but not. I wouldn't say he's an all-star, top 5, top 10 maybe. But when he gets to playoffs and he gets towards the end of the season, he's very clutch, and you've already started to see him turn around. He's playing so much better. Yeah. And the team is playing better in front of him as well.
I think that's the bigger thing. I think it's the goaltenders have been good, maybe not great, but they've been good. And it takes a while for our goalies at least to catch their stride. I mean, we've seen this in previous seasons too. But I think the defense stepping up and playing much better has been the real driving force to us winning more games, and not necessarily being tighter games, because we've seen even just the Edmonton game score 4 goals, albeit they potted one in the last 5 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, we still held them prior to that. Still held them to the 3, and that's the magic number. Right?
I think they really held them to 2.
Yeah.
They scored that third goal was another garbage time goal with maybe 2 minutes left or something. And, that's when I think Dylan was the one that went down on the ice and they skated around him and scored. And I tweeted about it, and the guy thought I was trolling him. I'm like, no, I'm not trolling him. Now we can do the dub song. think they'll bring back? Ooh, going fast. Do you think they'll bring back the classic Sharks jersey again on a more permanent basis?
No, like that.
Are you thinking that the black jersey was the throwback jersey? The new.
So there was an anthem singer who was wearing essentially that style of jersey, and I'm wondering if that's what he's asking about, those throwbacks. I don't think that those are going to make more appearances. I think that was what they were doing for that season.
They're not going to throw all these out at once in one season. It's not like the NBA throws out. They probably have 20 jerseys in one season.
So
the only audio I can send is coming from the iPad. And,
wow.
And we're going to have to stop the stream and reset it all. Sorry, guys.
So we're going to restart.
Well, since you can hear from the iPad, why don't you tell them what's going on, and then we'll go ahead and reset them.
Gremlins are in the machine. We're going to pause the stream and start it again.
That Bobrovsky to the Sharks are maybe.
Okay, you should be back on the stream.
Bobrovsky to the Sharks? Hey, welcome back, by the way. I hope you guys can hear us now. I guess that we had a little problem with the mics there, so I'm going to turn this off so you can hear me. I guess hopefully we've got that all figured out now. That'd be great. But Aaron was fielding a question about Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky.
First of all, you can't just say it like
good.
that.
We're good. They're giving us the thumbs up. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging with us. Appreciate it.
Who was it? Tom Hamill said, do any of y'all follow SJS Central on Insta? He said, Bob to the Sharks, maybe. There's a lot of NHL rumor things that are out there. There was one, a real famous one, gosh, probably a decade ago that I used to listen to or watch. And it's hilarious because they were disproven that they have zero inside information because they threw out so much stuff that stuff would stick and they go, see, I had this, right? And they proved that if you were he did worse than a randomizer, whatever. They compare it to a randomized whatever, and he did worse than that. So it's all.
So I guess the question would be: does SJS, whoever, do they throw out tons and tons of rumors, or is it just like a one thing that they shot out there? Right? If they're throwing out tons of rumors, then there's probably nothing behind it.
Yeah.
Either way, I mean, it would be great to have Bobrovsky, don't get me wrong, but
I don't like Bobrovsky.
I don't think it happens.
I think Bobrovsky's a great regular season goalie, and his playoff record is atrocious. He has not done well in his entire career in the playoffs, whereas Jones is the complete opposite. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Sharks, so I don't see why we'd want to trade and get him. So I mean, we almost talk about this every week, but Jones and Dell are just fine, and they're great, and I think we talked about this actually in the last week there's two different strategies for money to spend on defending. We like to do, or the Sharks do, more defense because they're not just defenders, they also score points. We have Burns and Carlson on the blue line. So you get more bang for your buck having better defensemen than you do having a world-class goalie.
Look at Montreal with Carey Price.
Right.
So
two examples of the extremes. Montreal has Carey Price, and they can't really afford much else to help them on defense. Whereas Chicago won 3 cups with, I would say, their goaltending wasn't the worst. I mean, it's not terrible goaltending. Niemi and Crawford are good goalies, but I don't think they're a top 3. Either of them were top 3 goalies. I mean, especially Niemi. Niemi's an average goalie, I would say. But their defense was so good that Warriors undrafted and literally came out of nowhere and became a very good backup goalie and possibly a starter on another team. I don't see it on the Sharks, but maybe in a year or two after his contract's up, they could trade him and be a starting goalie for a team that's up and coming.
Well, and I think it depends on how the guys in the AHL are doing. Bibeau and Coronar, I think is his name. I'm not sure. Well, again, get Dan to pronounce that one if need be. But if those two guys are showing some promise in terms of their ability to step into the NHL level, yes, it's vastly different than the AHL. However, they are posting up, they got some shutouts. They've got tons of wins between the two of them. They're virtually identical on stats. Last I checked, may have changed since then because I checked a long time ago, but they're both very good goaltenders by the stats. So if that translates well for them into the NHL, you can have goaltenders who are on, much smaller contracts, two-way contracts that won't cost them nearly as much, which may be a big deal coming up with Erik Karlsson's contract and everybody else that they're trying to sign. And seeing Dell maybe getting shipped off, like you said. Now, it's not that Dell's not good or anything, and it's not the writing's on the wall for him. But it could be a good trade for all parties involved, right? Dell may be getting an opportunity to start somewhere. We had talked about Carolina previously having a hard time with their goalies. Maybe he's a fit to go out there and give it, the old college try, if you will.
Their problem is they're a team full of former backup goalies.
Right. But hey, why stop there, right? So hey,
Yeah.
maybe he gets the opportunity to shine, and
Right.
that'd be great for him. It'd be great for the Sharks because then they can get another backup who's maybe playing just as well. So
Okay, two separate questions, similar. Do you see a problem with our overtime record this year, or also a problem with the shootout record?
the shootout records.
I don't care about the shootout.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the shootout. Here's what I'll say about the shootout. Yes, it's a skills competition, but yes, you're vying for that extra point. I would like to see more of a shakeup in the shootout, and I think you've talked about this before as well. We kind of tend to throw the same guys out there, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think people have seen what
0-3
Pavelski can
right
do.
now.
Yeah, they've seen what our main guys can do, and we need to throw something like a curveball out there. I talked previously. Justin Braun's actually done pretty good in the practice shootouts that they've done, and no one has a scouting report on Justin Braun. I would love to see them throw Justin Braun out there just once. Why not?
Yep.
Having said that, is there a cause for concern? I think the cause for concern comes from the first 3 periods, right? Why are we letting it go to overtime? Why are we letting it go to a
Well,
shootout?
we forced overtime a couple games.
Yeah, and that's good.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
So the problem that I have with regular season overtime and the shootouts is it's nothing like that in the playoffs. When you get to playoffs, it's not 3-on-3 overtime, which is a completely different game. The Sharks are very good at possessing the puck, and we've seen it the very first game against the Kings. The Sharks possessed the puck almost the entire time of overtime. Basically wore out the Kings, kept that line. They got stuck out there because they switched sides, so they have the long change.
Right.
They got stuck out there, tired them out, and then they scored a goal. So completely different strategy. When you get to overtime in the playoffs, you're essentially scoring on somebody's mistake.
Yeah.
You don't create much during overtime usually. You're exhausted, you're tired. To me, I feel like the Sharks are better off in overtime and playoffs because of their possession numbers, and they're going to. I mean, they're not going to dominate like they were against the Kings, but if you do the odds, right, the odds are in their favor because they possess so much, they produce so much shots, and they take advantage of people's mistakes, or they get people trapped in their zone. However, they could come back to bite them. I mean, we saw last season against Vegas when in the one overtime game.
Yeah.
I think it was a block shot or something. Burns is out of position, and Paul Martin got completely burned on the play, and that was
that play
that was his last play of his career.
That play, that's true. That play was actually Paul Martin and Burns were both skating back, and Martin bit more towards Burns' side, and then the pass came out to, I think it was Will Carlson. Before we take more questions, just want to remind you guys, we do have Super Chat available now, which we didn't before, and you guys have been asking about it, so or at least somebody was asking about it. I think it was Jason Hillier was asking. So we have it available now, and if you guys want to, help fund the show, help donate to our set and our cause and everything else, we would love for you guys to make use of that Super Chat. I already told Aaron the first thing that we're going to do with whatever money we get from Super Chat is to get new Expo dry erase board markers, because the ones we have are dead. So that's the first thing we're going to put that towards. So if you want to help us fund our dry erase board markers and everything else, Super Chat's available. So thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Here's a good one. What kind of player would we need if we will be trading one of the scratch blue liners? I think the only player right now that we need is a fourth line center.
Yeah, but I don't think we need it.
No, not that we need it.
Yeah.
I think it's a depth thing, because somebody's going to get hurt down the line, maybe even in playoffs or right before playoffs. So I think just adding depth and not a top 6 or even a top 9 guy. I think just a bottom 3 guy, really, forward.
See, and I don't even think we need that anymore, because Rourke Chartier was playing pretty well in that role. And if we're just talking about a fourth line guy, we're not talking about a guy trying to fill in on the first or second line. Right. We're just talking about filling a fourth line role. Those guys don't get many minutes anyway.
I feel like Chartier is more of a top 6 type player than a bottom 6 type player in terms of what he does.
Yeah, maybe.
He's skillful more than a grinder, that like an Eric Fair type, where he's going to go out and just do what it takes and grind it out. And he's a bigger body. I don't think Chartier's big enough. That's
okay.
And I think it's more of a matchup thing too, depending on who they're playing against in the playoffs.
So right now we've got Goodrow, Melker Karlsson, and Radil.
The real
The
Radiel.
real Radiel. Yeah. So Radiel's kind of the huge body on
Right,
that line,
and it's
right?
working.
Yeah.
He's doing well. So, I don't know if we need somebody. I think it's more of just a depth thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet what would be great is if they could find another Eric Fair type that was toiling around in the minors and nobody
Well,
wanted
you
him
want
in the
Antoine
NHL.
Vermette.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
He's sitting at home, probably not on his couch. He's probably working out.
Yeah,
and
he's
he's
probably
waiting
working out,
for a
yeah.
call, and I bet a team is going to call him.
Yeah.
And I think he would be a fantastic ad. If anything, give him 12 minutes a game.
Yeah.
He's going to win almost every face-off he has, especially defensively. And your penalty kill, not that it's terrible, but it's
Yeah.
going to get even better,
Yeah.
I think, with him.
Potentially. Again, it's the same problem I have with Rick Nash. Not the entire problem with Rick Nash, but the issue for me is if a guy's sitting there not playing, game time situations and whatnot, you got to be in those day in, day out to be able to step right in and just go. And if you're not sitting on your couch necessarily, but if
Right.
all you're doing is cycling, right, you're not playing the game. You're not thinking the game. You're not doing it. So that's where I would have a hard problem bringing in a guy like that. But I don't think that a trade for, like, let's say Tim Heed, I think is the most likely candidate to get moved here. I think if we did trade Heed, we'd be looking at just getting a pick. I could see the potential for getting a depth player. That said, I think that Doug Wilson's the type that is more apt to give the guys the opportunity who've been there and say, hey, maybe they make a trade to get a guy because they want to say, hey, we want to go for that cup run, and I think you guys deserve it. But at the same time, I feel like he might say, you know what, we're going to go with this group because we have Chartier still playing that we can call him up, and he deserves it. So I feel like that might be the case. So either you're going to see a trade for a fourth-line center for Heed, or you're going to see probably just a pick of some sort.
That's just going to free up cap space.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
roster move, basically.
Sure, yeah.
The other thing is, right now, it's kind of a logjam because they have two defensemen that they have to scratch every night.
Yeah.
And one forward. I think they'd rather have one defenseman scratched every night and two forwards, so
yeah.
they can rotate them around a little easier and move them up and down.
Yeah.
Because they have more forwards that they can call up and send back down than they do defensemen.
Yeah.
So that will help clear that up.
Heed for Bobrovsky.
And it's Bebo.
Bebo?
Bebo.
I call him Bibo.
Right, it's Bebo.
It's Bebo?
Yeah.
That sounds like a child's bear.
Yeah, it does.
Give me
Are we
my
on,
Bebo.
are we on track for cap issues, or do we look decent? I think everything's going to depend on Carlson signing. If Carlson signs, he's
Yeah.
going to get that $11 million range, maybe even closer to 12. And then we're going to have some problems. If he doesn't sign, we have so much space. I think Pavelski comes back. Maybe Thornton for one more year, depending if we
Yeah.
win this year or not. Pretty much, I think everyone except if Carlson doesn't stay, I think everyone else would keep everybody else.
Yeah.
That's due, which is there's only a handful. But I think they're okay cap wise. Anything, man?
If he signs, yeah, you're in a bit of a bind.
And then do you think he's gonna stay? Is another question.
Okay, so if he stays, are you in a bit of a bind? Yeah, you're in quite a bit of a bind. You've paid points that he should have gotten, having been out for 2 games, right? Or if he'd have played those 2 games, you know what I mean?
They joked about it. Then yeah.
Like he made up
Kane
for
joked
everything.
about it,
Yeah,
I think.
like so I don't know. I think all this hate for him that you see is kind of unwarranted. I don't get it. I can understand where, San Jose maybe is seen as kind of like the rehabilitation center, if you will. Like somebody from Ottawa is saying, he's a cancer in the locker room, and you guys shouldn't have picked him up, and blah 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 blah. Right? If that's true, then okay, we heard the same thing about Evander Kane. We'll be hearing the same thing about EK65. And then there's like Ben and Sagan that are out there kind of like right now who are getting lambasted by the CEO, and they want out, I'm sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. They're like, oh, I don't play for him, but it's there's some bad blood there, and they're just like, you know what, to heck with this, man.
Well, they could also motivate them to go out and
Yeah.
actually play well because
Could
they
be.
know they've been playing.
Yeah.
Crap.
But anyway, so I mean, it would be like San Jose, like a destination for problem children or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, yeah, no, I just don't know. I think that do I think he'll sign? I feel like he will. I feel like he'll sign here. Is the organization treating him right? I believe that we are. He's said nothing but good things about the organization, the players, and everything that he's been doing here. I think he's going to get the support that he needs for his wife and his hopefully soon to be family.
Right.
I know Ottawa is his home and everything, and he's stood by that. You have to also remember that he made those comments because his wife is from Ottawa and because it just happened him being traded. So it was, a heartfelt moment.
Joe Thornton kind of said the same thing about Boston when
Sure.
he was first traded. It's a very emotional time. And
Yeah.
you spent your entire career there.
And sometimes you say things, not that you
Yeah.
don't necessarily don't mean, but you say things in the moment.
Yeah. And Joe didn't meet his wife until he was already on the Sharks. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like he had a wife that he was across the country who was from Boston. So similar situation. I mean, he was very emotional at the time too. But
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he'll resign. Yeah, I think he'll resign with the Sharks. I
I'm
mean,
still not sure.
I'd be a little upset if he didn't. And not because I'm upset with him, but I think he's a great player. I mean, I think everything that I've seen from him so far, he's a magician out there. He really is. And to let a guy like that, go by it would be a shame, in my opinion. Would it screw up our entire cap situation?
Do you like Hurdle at center, Radiel top 6? Do you like the lines from the most recent game or just about to get shaken up again?
Whoa, one at a time. Okay.
That was one.
Hurdle at center?
Do you like Hurdle at center?
No.
Do you like Radiel in the top 6?
No.
Do you like the lines from the most recent game? Because they were blended up pretty well. Hurdle was basically a third line center.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
I like the Logan Couture, Hurdle, and Meyer line.
I don't mind them breaking them up because
Yeah.
they weren't producing for a couple games.
Yeah.
So change it up just a little bit, keep them on their toes.
Sure.
And it also produced major matchup problems for the other teams.
And that's why I say no to Radiel top 6. It's not because I don't think he's worthy of it or he's not good enough necessarily. You put him with any of those guys in the top 6, he's going to shine. The guys on those lines, they'll make whoever else is on the other wing better.
I like what Pete does because he blends up the lines
Yeah.
and changes it. When you're the other team, you don't know how to counter that, really.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, like, if you always have the same 4 lines for the most part, and they're playing game in and game out, you know exactly what their tendencies, you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Now you're playing against a team that, okay, I know what this one player does, but what does he do with this other guy?
Yeah.
He brings a different element to the game. How am I going to match up my pairings in my forwards
And then
against that?
you maybe have to blend your lines up, but you haven't been doing that all season long, so
Exactly.
it kind of goofs you up. Yeah.
So I think, it sucks when he blends up the lines and they're
Yeah.
doing well, but it's been working and the Sharks have been dominating. And I think the Sharks are in a very good spot now where they're firing.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Partially to catch them in the standings, hoping that we get a full 2 points, but it'll be a great
To look ahead.
Right, it'll be a great matchup to see how we match up against the Pacific winning team right now.
Sure.
So it's kind of a proving thing for the Sharks to show that they do belong at the top, that they are better than Calgary, which I personally think they are. I guess I'm biased a little bit,
Just a little bit.
but
I don't know why. You're only wearing a teal hat and everything else.
All right.
But for Radiel, again, it's not that I don't think he's a top 6 worthy player. I just love that they got to face him on the 4th line. We saw the 4th line playing really well recently, and I don't think that's because the other team is allowing our 4th line to do so much better than them. They're trying to create that matchup, and they can't match it.
Yeah, and I think, we saw that last year with Fair on the 4th line. They were creating matchup problems in the first round against Anaheim. They destroyed that 4th line was on fire.
Yeah.
Even the last week before the playoffs, they were on fire.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big difference between the top 3-4 teams in the West, and that would be the Sharks, maybe Calgary, definitely Winnipeg, and Nashville. Those 4 teams just are deeper in their lineup than any other team. We saw the last game against a one-line team of Edmonton, how well the Sharks did against that. I think that's the big difference, and I think that's why the Sharks are looking great and will go far in the playoffs because of that.
Yeah. No, and I think the 4th line was out there for a goal when the McDavid line was out against them.
Right.
And they still.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to see that match in
Yeah.
playoffs or anything, but that just shows you how deep the team is.
Yeah.
They can handle it, right?
Yeah. Okay. We're pretty stacked right now, but there's definitely a little room to fit one more great forward to be solid. That's what we just talked about. Hey guys, love your content and dedication towards the channel, especially since I'm from Toronto with Little Sharks coverage.
Wow.
Maple Leafs. I'm wondering what's your opinion on the new lineup. We just talked over that. I'm just going to go over these. If the Sharks made a trade, it will be an upgrade for Donskoy or LeBanc. I don't think so. I think those guys are I think the lineup's pretty much set.
Yeah,
I think unless there's a major injury to somebody in the top 6, I don't see the Sharks doing a big blockbuster trade or moving any of the pieces out.
yeah.
I
I think
than the guys we talked about.
I think with Donskoy and LeBanc, like the expectations on those two in terms of where their ceiling was maybe is a little bit higher than where they're playing right now. But the thing is, where they're playing right now seems to be okay for what they are delivering, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are like more in the third line and low utilization line, right?
Yeah.
We've seen LeBanc play down there, and he brought a
But he is-
really punch element to that line where
Yeah.
he was able to bring the puck in across, nice soft mitts, find other guys. I mean, that was working out pretty well, and he's since been promoted back up.
He is on the top power play still.
Yeah, and he is on the top power play list. And, you know, he's there for a reason, right? DeBoer sees something in him, in his playmaking ability, his vision on the ice, and quite frankly, his calmness with the puck on the right wing. He's shown a calmness when he's got that puck, that he's not panicking and throwing the puck away. Maybe he makes a bad pass here and there, yes, but I think what he's attempting to do isn't out of panic. He's doing it looking for the right play, and maybe he makes it sometimes, maybe he doesn't. But DeBoer thinks he's making the right call enough times to keep him there. So, I mean, who are we to say that he needs to get shipped out? But with both LeBanc and Donskoy, I think what they are delivering is adequate for the position that they're playing currently in the lines and the minutes that they're playing currently. I don't think there's a reason necessarily to ship those guys out in search of somebody who's more skilled and just frankly better and putting up more numbers, because if you do trade one of those guys away for a guy who's better, the other team knows that the other guy's better. You're going to have to give something else along with it too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just see our top 6 without those two skaters, Donskoy and LeBanc. Our top 6 is still very, very good, and there's really nothing wrong with having a Donskoy or a LeBanc playing in your bottom 6.
Yep. Will we see
Bottom
Antti
6.
Sumella back in the lineup, or will we right out the year in the AHL? I think at some point we will see him at the end, before the end of this season.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of Antti Suomela, actually.
Yeah, I think he's getting some better minutes and ice time. Remember, he came over from the International Ice, which is a much larger ice surface. Has never played the NHL ice before this year, so it's pretty incredible at what he did in the beginning of the season. But it's still going to take some adjustment, and he's doing that in the AHL and getting really used to it. And I just think that the third and fourth line center, I mean, not hurdle, but
Rotating door.
yeah, they're going to be a rotating door, and especially if and when they move one of Heat out, they're going to be able to do that a lot better and a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because then they'll have 2 forwards scratched, and they'll just rotate them around.
Yeah.
So yes, I do think we'll see Sumella at some point again this season.
And the reason I said that's a good point, I didn't think about Antti Suomela, was because we had talked about if we trade, I say when, but if we trade Tim
Right.
Heed, would we get a fourth line center? Potentially, yes. However, again, I brought up Rourke Chartier, and I didn't even think about Suomela. So we've already got a couple guys that have got some NHL experience with the Sharks. Now, maybe we're not super attached to Suomela. I mean, we just picked him up, but and he could be part of that trade bait. But I don't know. I feel like we've got enough guys that are playing at the AHL level, and the Barracuda are tearing it up, so there's really nothing wrong with those forwards either. We've got guys at that level who can step in. So that's why I feel like we're probably not going to see Heed get traded for a fourth line center, because we've got a couple guys that are playing on the Barracuda who can just jump right in, and there's no waivers to have to clear for these guys either. But yeah, that's a good point, and I do think we'll see him back. DeBoer had said that he wants him to work on his defensive play and more specifically his face-offs, right? So I think what you'll see is once Suomela kind of acclimates to that a little bit more at the AHL level, you'll probably see him come back up for a game here and there to see how it works out. And if it sticks, it sticks. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But either way, I think the lineups are pretty solid as it is.
What do you guys think about the headshot Sorensen and LeBanc took without any league discussion on a possible fine or suspension? I know there's a lot of people on Twitter that are upset about, especially the LeBanc one.
Yeah.
There was a penalty called, and I don't know. To me, it was definitely. I mean, I know everyone's gonna be upset about this because it was different than the hit that Carlson landed. When Carlson hit the guy was skating. He didn't move his body or anything, and Carlson hit him in the head. LeBanc turned his head right at the last second and got hit in the face. Not saying it's his fault, but he definitely made a move, and I think that's what the league looks at. Plus, a penalty was called. If there was no penalty called in the play and he got injured, let's say he got concussed,
He
he's
came
out.
back, yeah.
He came back and played. Then I think they'd look into it more. everyone is so upset thinking it's like a big conspiracy that the NHL has against the Sharks, and it's like, come on.
No.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. So, yes, I think player safety and their suspensions need to get overhauled and consistent.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're dealing with. In fact, last week in the episode, I said I wouldn't be
OEL.
surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a suspension.
Yeah.
And you were thinking it was going to be 2 games at least, or 1 game at least.
I was saying that's what the bar should be.
Right.
And you know what? I'll say this. I'm with you on that, and I think that you know, it is different because he did come back in the game, and if you look at the play again, LeBanc kind of has his back turned, and then all of a sudden he kind of turns back this way, and the guy's already starting to throw the shoulder. He's already starting to get his elbow in there, right? And as he starts to make that turn, and so I can understand there where it's more difficult for him to make that stop when he's trying to deliver that hit when he starts seeing the head coming around, right? And I am a big believer of, yes, there are split-second moments, but these guys are so good at this sport that those split seconds, they see them that fast. However, in this instance, I don't think he's already got the shoulder moving like he's going to deliver the hit, and LeBanc turns into it. Again, I don't think it's LeBanc's fault, and I would still like to see the Department of Player Safety say something, do something. I still think that bar should have been set at 2 games.
The other thing, though, is they do keep track of this stuff.
Yeah.
So even though he wasn't suspended, that is a mark on his file, I guess you could say, because they don't release that stuff. I forget what player it was. I was listening to NHL Network the other day, and they were saying that there's a lot of times where they don't say anything. The league doesn't come out and say anything, which they should. Their communication should be better.
Yeah.
But it is a mark on his file, and if and when he does another hit, they'll say, well, you did do this before.
Yeah.
Not that you're quite a repeat offender, but you definitely have been getting a little dirty, like you need to calm down a little bit. And I think they also send a letter directly to the player. So he might have gotten a letter which isn't publicized.
Which we'll never know, yeah.
So we don't know. So the only way we would know is if he gets suspended in the future in the next 6 months, and they will reference to this to this hit. So it's not like they're ignoring it and they're like, oh, it's San Jose Sharks, forget them.
Yeah. So in short, I would say no, there's no conspiracy. And I think if you ask any fan base, they'll all say, oh, the league hates us for whatever reason. I don't think there's any conspiracy. I would have still liked to seen 2 games for OEL just because of a consistency's purpose, right? If it's a hit to the head, it's a hit to the head, period. I don't care if he comes back or not or whatever else. Be consistent in it, right? That's just the way I'd like to see it. So. Anyway.
I'm just going to read through a few of these because we're getting a lot. I think Doug Wilson's had a major impact on EK because his wife is from Chicago and he got moved to San Jose and can share personal experience to guide him. I agree. Vegas is back in the top 3, but 2 games on most teams.
Care where we sit in the standings right now or who is ahead of us right now. We don't need points or we don't need Calgary to beat Vegas or we don't need anything yet. We got 40 games to go. There's slumps. There's injuries. There's all kinds of other things that can affect the outcome of the rest of the season. It doesn't matter where we are because at the end of the day, when playoffs start, no one's going to look back at December and see where we were sitting in the standings. That's the way I see it. Go ahead.
That and as long as you make playoffs, that's all I care about.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't even care if they're the 8 seed. What do you think the Sharks' New Year's resolution should be?
Oh, the Sharks' New Year's resolution. Win out. Win out. 40 plus games.
Don't get hurt?
That's a good one. That's actually a good one. No, I like that. Don't get hurt.
I mean, don't play not to get hurt because then you play awful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, and that kind of ties in with Burns, the article with Burns, taking care of your body kind of thing. He's eating access deer now or something. That whole thing. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It's a great read. So
just introduce the Carlsons to Santana Row and Wine Country. They'll decide to stay. I'm sure they've already been. I'm sure. Can we beat Vegas in a playoff series?
Yeah.
Yes. I think we could have beaten them last year. The Sharks were definitely the strongest Western team that challenged them, brought them to 6 games. I mean, imagine if they won that overtime game instead of losing it.
Yeah.
That's a whole different series.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think we would have won. I think they were a little scared in a way. I think Vegas was kind of like, oh, wow, like we might not win this. There's a little bit of doubt in there.
I'll say this. Is there any team we can't beat? No. No.
Winnipeg, to me, is the strongest.
Strongest, sure.
And Nashville.
Can we beat them?
Yeah.
We can beat them.
I don't feel like we're outmatched in any of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge Sharks
fan.
fan.
And that's not to say that the Sharks are the best team in the league, that we're better than everyone else. I just think that even the teams that are better than us, we could still beat them.
Yeah. Okay, if we do have cap issues, who do we get rid of? Well, we don't. So I'm gonna punt that one till the summer.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. There's no reason to discuss it
Yeah.
now because we don't know what it's gonna look
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Since Shimmick is playing so well with Burns, are we possibly going to see a Ryan trade part 2, or is Heed the guy to go?
Heed.
Yeah, Heed's a right-handed shot, and I think that's more valuable in the NHL. So he probably is
And he's
worth more.
also
to
a
most
UFA.
teams. Right.
Yeah.
So it's better for us to get rid of him.
So yeah, Heat is a UFA, which means that he'll go to the trade market. Joachim Ryan's still RFA,
Yeah.
which means we hold his rights. So some other team would have to give us compensation to be
And
able to sign him.
Shimmick is playing well. However, it's only been a dozen games, maybe. I mean, Joachim Ryan was the same way last year when he first started playing with Burns. It was like, oh, he's so great. Like, we can get rid of Paul Martin, which we did anyway. But things can change. Shimmick could, get brain farts in a month from now. So we can't really say he's the answer right now.
Well, and let's put it this way. If Shimmick does have brain farts, who are you going to throw in there? Heed or Ryan? You're going to put Ryan in. I think Heed's out the door. All signs point to yes.
Yeah.
He's a UFA. He's on the last year of his contract. He's not the guy that you're going to choose over Ryan to play if Shimmick has brain farts or whatever you want to call it. I think he's out the door. And it's a good trade. I think it's a good trade for the organization and a good trade for him to actually get out there and be able to play NHL minutes.
Yep. Okay, here's a bunch. Who would you give up for Bobrovsky? We already going over this. We don't want Bob. We don't want to give up on that. I agree. We're not getting Bob. Bob is not the right move. LeBanc needs to stop his blind behind-the-back pass. It's so predictable, especially on the power play. Yes and no, because it's been working a lot of the times, not every time.
Yeah.
But he's a creative guy, and I like the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd rather lean on the side of creativity than being boring.
I think regardless of who it is, you see this in the practices too. No matter who it is, when you've got the puck on the wing, they come in a little bit to see if the defender's going to pull down. If the defender pulls down, they usually bump it off the boards and back to the point, where Burns or whoever else is back there is going to throw it in.
It's like Rochambeau. If they're going to move here, I'm going to go here. If they move there,
it's chess. Exactly what it is. If the defender doesn't come down fast enough for them, they got that lane, they're going to jump right into that lane and go for a shot or shot pass or whatever else.
Do you think it's right for Carlson to make the All-Star team? How much do you think reputation or fame should be considered for the selections? I think Burns over Carlson at this point. I mean, for one, he's scored more points. Carlson is an All-Star, but I think with Couture and Pavelski and Meyer, there's too many players on the Sharks teams right now that are playing at a high level that I don't think Carlson will make it. But we've talked about this before a couple weeks ago, I think. The NHL has a problem with identity of all-star players and getting them out there. So I can see both arguments of Carlson going or not going. Going because a lot of the league knows him. Ottawa fans are going to watch because they love Erik Karlsson. Most Ottawa fans love Erik Karlsson, and they're going to want to watch because he's in the All-Star game. I mean, imagine if Patrick Marleau made the All-Star game as Toronto, if Toronto just sucked and he was the only All-Star on the team, right? I would be interested in watching it because I was a big Marleau fan when he was on the Sharks. So I can see it's good for the league to have him there. I can also argue at the same time that I like having new blood there, like Timo Meier. I've talked about this before too. Get some of the young guys in there so you can get their faces out there and get some more support. So it's a terrible answer, but I can go either way. What do you think?
I'm lost in what was the question
Carlson.
again?
Carlson, should he be an All-Star?
Should he be an All-Star? I mean,
do you think it's right for him to make the All-Star team? Do you think reputation or fame should be considered in the selections?
I don't like necessarily the reputation or fame. However, I will say that I'm a hypocrite because I'm the one saying I want Joe Thornton in there, and he doesn't deserve to be in there.
No.
In terms of points, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve to be there. But
over other people, no.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, okay, it's the All-Star game. Who really cares, right? So does it really come down to the point? The best All-Star game I've ever watched, John Scott. Did he deserve to be there? Hell no, he didn't deserve to be there.
Yes, he did. He was voted in.
Exactly. So that's what I was trying to get. Joe
You make
Thornton
the rules.
in.
If you vote somebody in, they're in. Don't try and skirt it around and sending them to the minors. That was some BS, man.
That was horrible. Yeah. So anyway, what's next?
If
Any
John
super
Scott
chats,
can
by
make
the way?
the All-Stars.
No, I agree. I agree.
It's just a fan vote doesn't make it right. It's just a popularity contest.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's literally the point, though. Let's let the fans have the power. Ideally, All-Star games should be the best players, not the most popular players. Yeah, Yes
I
and
agree.
no.
It's all stars, not all popularity.
I think what they should do is make the skills competition a little bit more broader and maybe even more skills competitions where not people on the all-star team. You have the all-star team guys there, but maybe each team sends a rep for that specific skill.
Okay.
So like the speed skating, like
Maybe he's not the best player, but he's the fastest.
right.
Okay.
And you want them to compete with the other teams. I think that would be a little bit more inclusive.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Because then you get more people in the all-star weekend,
Yeah.
not so much a game. So you bill it more as an all-star weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like the skills competition more than the game, but I do like the game more that it's 3-on-3 now.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit more exciting and more
Yeah.
open ice. When it was 5-on-5, it was like watching the NBA All-Star game where nobody plays defense
Yeah, they just-
and there's
okay.
dunking everywhere. Like it's like, ugh.
Well, they still kind of do that though.
But the 3-on-3 is a
Yeah.
little better, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's so much faster.
Yeah.
So
And that's the point of 3-on-3 is that there's a
Exactly.
lot less defense going on.
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Absolutely, Jumbo should be an all-star. Toronto, Tampa, Western. Wait, what is that?
Toronto, Tampa, what?
Western, those Eastern teams. Oh, I guess they're asking about Toronto and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is on fire right now. I think they're crazy, crazy good. Toronto too. I mean, they're both. The East is strong.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say Toronto and Tampa in the East. I'm trying to think what other teams would even be close. Pittsburgh's not so much.
Yeah.
Washington, I could see them being in the mix again. Boston, I think, is just not deep enough. They're almost a one-line, two-line team. I went to a Bruins game when I was out there, and they played. Oh my gosh, who'd they play? It was weird going to a non-Sharks NHL game. Because both teams have a different system. I'm so used to watching the Sharks play their system and almost like knowing what they're going to do.
Mhm.
And watching them going, I'm like, what are they doing? Like, it was so boring. That first period, there was no penalties. There was like a combined 6 shots on goal, both teams. It was so boring. Then it finally kind of opened up a little bit, but I was like, oh. Anyway, I just don't think the Bruins are that strong.
Okay, yeah.
That was my point. A little tangent there. What do you guys think is going on with Jones? Is he injured like last season? No?
No.
I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I think he's turned it around the last 2 weeks. I mean, even the Edmonton game, the McDavid goal, he tipped it
He
in.
tips it over. Yeah, I mean, that's
That's a
weird
great
one.
skill.
Yeah.
I think that's an incredible goal by McDavid, but it was 5 seconds left, and
Yeah.
who cares at that point? He got the win in the bucket. So I think Jones is great. I think he's obviously playing much better than he was a month ago,
Sure.
2 months ago. So I think he's turned his game around. He's playing much better. Someone said, do you think it's an equipment issue? We brought this up, I think, earlier in
Yeah.
the season. And the only thing that changed in the equipment was the shoulders are less broad, so they're in a little bit more. They're more snug with your actual shoulder line and not out here. And then it's also not as puffy out this way, so it's more contoured to your body.
Okay.
I think Curtis Pashelka, was he the one that interviewed him? Or maybe it was Gackle. One of them from the Mercury News interviewed Jones about his equipment and asked him and Dell if they had any problems with it. And they said no. They were, because they were like, some other goalies in the league are complaining they're
Yeah.
getting hurt. And they said that they never got hurt
Yeah.
in it. And they weren't even really adjusting to it. I think they did have a
Some
little bit
truth
of
to
adjustment.
that, but yeah.
I think they had a little bit of an adjustment period in the beginning, especially like the very first goal that Jones gave up, I think, in the season, was he was beat on the near post on just a puck thrown out from almost the goal line along the boards. I think he thought he had it covered, and it wasn't. So, I don't know. I mean, how long have they been practicing with those pads? So it's not like it's...
Yeah, I think
thrown
by
in the
now,
game.
yeah. But again, that's not necessarily all the goalie. Like, yes, save percentage means a lot, but and the goalie controls save percentage to a degree. If you're giving up a lot of high danger chances, then the save percentage isn't exactly on you. The save percentage is on the guys allowing that high danger chance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know that I buy into the goalie stats are all on him. But, I think that the team has played better in front of both goalies, and that's a big reason for some of the turnaround. But, the season's going on, and they're getting more comfortable as well. So
Yeah. Who do we need at the trade deadline? Wingers, we can pick up any rentals, and if so, possible high-end rentals. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
No high-end rentals,
Yeah.
probably just fourth-line center,
Yeah.
some depth.
Yeah.
Probably centers, I think, more than wingers. That would be my guess.
You always move one of our centers off to the wing. So.
Yeah. I think we should expect the version of Jones or more. I don't know why, but I feel like his regular season performance the past few years has been above average for him. No, that is his average because he wasn't a starter until he came to the Sharks. So, I don't know. How do we get Jumbo to raise the Holy Cup? You hand it to him and you tell him to lift it like this and don't drop it.
So we are going to wrap up right now, but question for you. Do you think if we win the Cup this year, do you think Pavelski raises it first, or do you think he hands it to Joe?
I think Pavelski raises it first, and then the first person
immediately
is
hands it
going
to
to
Joe.
Joe
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
I would say Joe and then Burns. They might just go in age order.
Sure, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if Pavelski would say, cool, thanks, and then hand it, or do you think he would lift it, yeah, and then boom, hand it over?
I think he would lift it because I think he's earned it just as much as Jumbo
Okay.
has. He's been on the team almost as long as
Yeah.
Jumbo has. Maybe a year or two less, but
That's fair.
it's not like I think that Jumbo earned it more than Pavelski. I also think who's the Conn Smythe that playoff, right?
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
What if it's Pavelski?
Yeah.
Is he going to be like, no, here?
Mm,
No.
It would be a character move for a
No.
guy who's got 2 reconstructed knees and given
Yeah.
everything to this team. Anyway, we are all out of time, so thank you very much for all of your time and the comments. We love the discussion with you guys. So we are going to get going on our last episode of 2018. So
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Couple
Happy New Year,
Years in there.
everybody.
Happy New Year. Be safe and go Sharks.
yeah, that's good.
And if you want to go buy some stuff, you can get this lovely hat in our store.
There you
Just
go.
to our website, thefinfactor.com.
There you are. So please go check that out. If you didn't get a chance to do the super chat, that's okay. We'll have it enabled for every single time we do a live this time around, I guess, or going forward, I suppose. So we're looking forward to getting those expo markers for our whiteboard.
Yeah, that'd be nice. We can read it.
Sweet.
Too bad you
Anyway.
guys can't see it. It's off to the side.
Yeah,
of the
the red is really dull. Anyway, thank you again for tuning in. We're gonna get to recording, so that's it. We'll see you
Yep.
guys in 2019.
Yep. Well, no, our next episode will come out tomorrow.
We'll see you guys in 2018 before we see you.
So
in
there's some more
2019.
questions coming about predictions and stuff. We'll go over this
Yeah.
week's games in our next episode, which will come out tomorrow. So
Cool.
be sure to check out the episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good.
All right.
Bye bye.
See you later.